Hello and welcome back to Sprite Guard Plays HyperRogue. When we left off, we had just hit an orb of safety that had dropped us near a hive, an emerald mine, and a vineyard. And the plan was to go to the emerald mine first, so that is where we are going to go. And in the emerald mine, the plan is to collect 10 emeralds to move us forward on the Hyperstone quest. And then eventually we are going to go to try and find a key in the emerald mine. And so that's going to require that we go to Hell, which we have unlocked at this point. And so it's just going to be a matter of going through a couple of pretty well-known, pretty straightforward phases of the game. There's not too much unusual is going to be going on, but I do want to try out this emerald mine strategy for finding the Orb of Yendor. We are not actually aiming for a Yendor victory. That's just going to be something that would be useful. It's not something that I consider really necessary right now. Getting the Orb of Yendor will give us some random orb powers, and it will give us a lot of them. It will give us several different orbs, and it will give us, I think, 150 ticks in most of them. So there's a lot of benefit that we could gain, especially for then going into one of the more dangerous areas like the Land of Power or the jungle. Now we can't actually get in here because the pikemen won't go through this mirror cloud of mirage. But we cannot enter the cloud of mirage because the pikemen would kill us at that point. So we're going to have to find our last emerald someplace else, and it looks like we will have one not too difficult to get to over here. And that'll get us to our 10th. So now what does that mean? That means we are unlocking Camelot. We still need totems from the graveyard, though because of the strategy that I mentioned earlier, we don't actually need to be spawning dead orbs. That's not something that is really important. So I'm not really concerned about when we're going to hit up the graveyard. We may as well, since it's right here, but I don't feel really committed to it. I don't feel like it's something we really need to hurry up. And so if we start getting too many ghosts, or if we just find a convenient exit into someplace more promising, I will happily take it. We don't need the Necromancer's totems in the way that we normally do. But we can grab them. I want to stay close to the crossroads because we do still need to get to Hell. And I believe we still need to visit the Silver Mine, or the Dead Caves, I guess. And we do still need to visit the Hives. So we still have quite a lot for us to do. Now this Orb of Thorns is not really a game changer, but it will let us do some interesting maneuvers. We can do some stabs. We still can't actually kill the greater demons. We still can only kill the lesser demons, but it gives us a little bit more options, a little bit more mobility, because we are able to stab as well as fight in the normal way. So we can kill two at once like that. It gives us a little bit more options, and that's actually pretty valuable. Now that's our 10th Demon Daisy, so now we will be spawning Orbs of Yendor, but we're not really looking for an Orb of Yendor. You know, if we find one that is just like begging, you know, key is right in the emerald mines kind of thing, yeah, we'll go after that. But we don't have any dead orbs. We don't have anything that makes a Yendor quest really appealing right now. What we do want is 10 royal jellies, so let's see if we can do that. We want to just kind of run in a line alongside... we've already pulled some, so that was not what I was intending to do. It was actually trying to pass by a little bit more obliquely, but we can have these two armies fight and then just kind of work our way around the outside of the hyperbug nest and just try and find our way to the royal jelly. And it looks like we still have 22 red hyperbugs after us. So we're in kind of an awkward position where there's too many of them for us to kill, but there's not enough of them for us to lead an assault on another hive. And we certainly can't lead an assault on a red hive because they won't fight each other. They'll only fight hyperbugs of a different color. So another blue or green nest is what we are looking for. And I want to kind of take a moment to take a look at my surroundings and figure out what it is I'm doing. Think a little bit about, I think I talked a little bit in some previous episodes, the idea of seeing the story that you are living as you are living it. And I'm starting to think that we actually may have an opportunity to fight off these hyperbugs and maybe just try and start afresh. And we're really getting them down to the last few now. So I kind of wish that we had stayed closer to those royal jellies. We still have 5. So raiding one more nest should certainly still get us up to 10. So now I do want to kind of stay a little bit away. Okay, so here are 2 nests that are relatively close together. So we will get these guys angry, and then we will head over this way and hope that we can find... I have lost track of where that other hyperbug nest was. That is hyperbolic geometry for you, so that was a mistake. So we've hit kind of a setback, but I see a green nest, so we can still head into this green nest and start a fight. And it looks like we have fairly lopsided numbers again, and so we may end up not being able to get all of the royal jellies from this nest. But we'll see. We'll grab them as quickly as we can. I think I just want to get up to 10. I don't want to get any more. So yeah, there are 18 red hyperbugs. But they've unloaded. So that is actually pretty nice. I'm going to head through the emerald mine because my hope is to find a... we can do a double kill here where we go... We're going to stab this hedgehog warrior and trick this pikeman at the same time. Really like noticing moments when we can do that. And then things are getting a little bit dangerous, so we want to probably trick this flail guard by moving there, and then we can just use these miners to kind of open up a passage. So what we're looking for now is a crossroads. And the goal is to go along the border between Crossroads and Emerald Mine. Let's see. Need to pay a little bit more attention to tactics, because the Emerald Mine can be pretty dangerous because monsters attack. They threaten a lot of spaces, especially, I believe pikemen threaten twice as many spaces as ordinary monsters. And so we do have to be a little bit careful of that. And also, we have to, think about monsters attacking in different ways and monsters that we have to attack in different ways. And so we have to make sure that we're not going to get completely surrounded. And so far we're doing okay. I would really like to find my way to an exit, but we can persevere. We can kind of keep going, maybe not indefinitely, because eventually we're going to make a mistake. That's just kind of the inevitable nature of the human condition. And seeps are something that I always kind of forget to account for, because they are a little bit tricky to see and can really mess up our tactics. There is a crossroads right there. So, this is the sort of situation that I was talking about, where we're kind of being attacked from a few different directions, and so we have to be really careful about making sure that we're able to fight off every monster in the way that that monster needs to be fought off, and still, be able to do everything. So, we're not spawning Orbs of Yender yet, so I was actually... Oh wait, yes we are. What was I thinking? I lost track of where we were in the story, which is something that I did not expect to do. But I guess you never really expect to make that kind of mistake. It's just something that sneaks up on you. It's kind of interesting, the things that always happen but we never expect. And I don't really understand how those are both true, but I'm getting a little bit hazy, I'm getting a little bit far into the game, and I'm starting to ramble a little bit. That's something that happens. So that's in Relaya. There may be a way to find a key in Relaya. I don't know what it is. We can probably trace landmarks, but as I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm not really looking for an Orb of Yendor. I'm looking for an Orb of Yendor that is optimal. Otherwise, we just don't care. There's lots of other things that we can do. We still need gems from the Vineyard and from the Dead Caves. So those are both places that we want to go, and from the jungle. That's something else that we need to do. So where is this? Where's this one? It is not. It's in the Land of Eternal Motion. So that's not going to be something that we can get to. The dogs just make it impossible to find your way anywhere. So we're going to continue along the outside of this emerald mine. We also need to go into the Land of Power. That is going to require a lot of orbs. It's going to require probably more orbs than we have. Now, where is this one? It's going to be in the forest. Forest is another area that it's virtually impossible to get the key out of, simply because fire fairies are too unpredictable. Now, where is the key for this one? It is in the Living Cave, which is not really appealing. We do need to get the rest of the Necromancer totems. That is something that I forgot about. So, let's grab some equipment and see if we can... Oh my goodness. Now that's interesting. It left a living floor tile instead of a troll corpse. That is not something I expected. It makes sense because the Orb of Flash tends to level obstacles, but that's not something that I'd seen before, and so it was a little bit of a surprise. And I'm glad that this game still manages to continue throwing surprises at me. Now, I am looking around and I am not seeing totems, and so I'm going to start using the high contrast mode. I think for speedrunning, I'm going to have to just have high contrast turned on all the time, and then I will probably want to just remember to turn it off for my slower, kind of more adventure-oriented runs, because I don't actually think it looks very good. I just think it makes it really easy to find treasures. Alright, we've got the shadow coming up to us. Want to avoid that. I did see, it looks like we've unlocked Cicaidas, so that is another area that we're going to have to collect gems from. And that is our 10th totem, so now we are just looking for an exit, preferably as soon as possible. So I'm still trying to pay attention to seeing the story as I am in it, and I've been thinking about stories, kind of the very simple stories underlying things like adventure games and especially like roguelikes and the kind of really combat-oriented, not very story-oriented games. Because one thing that I actually find really interesting is sort of the stories of things that aren't trying to have stories. And one of the places where I have really been admiring that recently is in the game NetHack, which is one of the older roguelikes and one of the more traditional roguelikes. And it is one of the kind of more controversial ones because it's so difficult that, and it's so cheap. It's kind of like a little bit like I Want to Be the Guy, where there are things that will kill you that you would have no idea would kill you. And I've talked a little bit about NetHack before in the past on this. In this very series, I talked a little bit about how it has these really surprising interactions. And that is one of the cool things about it. But something that I have been interested in recently is sort of the organization of the game. And we did pick up an Orb of the Mind, which I am going to be using quite gleefully, because I quite like the Orb of the Mind. It's fun to use. I tend to use it up pretty quickly for that reason, but it's very useful. And it just lets you kill monsters from afar, and that can sometimes save your life. So we're going to continue to kind of go along the edge of an emerald mine, looking for a well-placed Orb of Yendor to give us some powers to try and take on the Dead Caves, the jungle, and the Land of Power. And we may as well see where this Orb of Yendor wants to take us, into the Dead Cave, which is what I suspected, but I think it's always worth at least checking. Now, I don't remember if we're going clockwise or counterclockwise around this one, so we may end up backtracking a little bit, which is fine. We're not in any kind of rush. And we don't actually have a huge need for dead orbs. We don't have a whole lot of need for a whole lot right now. We're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern as I try to figure out what the next good thing for us to do is. Here we can get another double kill, which is one of the aspects that I like most about the Emerald Mines, is kind of trying to set up those double kills. So we want to go into the Cocytus, and that's going to be pretty dangerous, pretty tricky, but we generally don't have too bad of a time of it, and we can melt that crystal sage. I talked a little bit in the past about thinking that they might be able to give us something. They don't. They're just... You can melt them by using their heat against them, and that is the main thing that crystal sages do, is they heat you up, but then they melt. So there's not a whole lot to really see or do there, but it's something to be aware of. Now, I'm a little bit worried about that demon falling into the water and turning into a demonic shark. Demonic sharks are very dangerous. So we want to probably hightail it and make sure that we are kind of leaving enough room for us to get away from this demonic shark, because it's going to pursue us pretty relentlessly, though pretty slowly. And something like a crystal sage could really mess us up, because the heat distribution is becoming pretty problematic at that point. When we have both the crystal sage heating up the ground under us, and the demon shark heating up the ground around it. And so we can get into a lot of trouble very quickly that way. And now we are just looking for an exit. It's the only thing that we want. And the ground is melting away from under us. Now, the Vineyard is someplace that we do have to go to. So we need to be very careful, because the Vineyard is very dangerous. The Vineyard is where many, many of my runs have ended. And so I really want to take things slowly and carefully, and really look around and make sure that I am aware of what's going on around me. Now I want to find my way to the bottles of wine as I can, and make sure that I am leaving myself escape routes, and kind of managing these vine beasts really carefully, because they can block you in very easily. And I want to use these vine spirits as much as I can to open up pathways so that I can travel around a little bit more easily. And then I want to make sure that I do not block off those same pathways when I fight the vine beasts. Okay, so this is a situation where it's getting pretty dangerous. And I think what we need to do is move towards this vine beast, fight it, then fight this vine spirit, beast, and then we should still be able to maneuver if we let this beast come here, and we can still get to all of the bottles of wine that I am looking at. And I believe this will actually, yeah, this will get us done. So now we just need to find our way to an exit. And that is easier said than done. Exits are not easy to come by. Now... Okay, so Tactics Arrows time. If I kill this vine beast or this vine spirit directly above me, the vine spirit directly above it will come down to meet me, and this vine beast will come up to meet me. Now, this vine beast can only get to adjacent to me on one space, so that's good, and it is not the flanking space. So I will be able to step to the right, but at that point I don't know where that vine beast is going to go, and so I think it's better... but here's the mistake that I made, is I now cannot go near those vine spirits. I don't have any way of getting near them, because they are threatening all of the spaces around them, and all of the spaces around the spaces around them. That's not exactly right, but there's no way that I can get through the vine up to those vine spirits. And we have another vine beast coming up. And the place where I want to put this vine beast is actually right there. And that will still let us maneuver around pretty freely. I'm still really just scanning around trying to find an exit. And so, talking about noticing the story around me as it's happening, I want to kind of make note of this as being a very tense moment where I don't know if I'm going to make it out safely. And I'm noticing that the vine spirits are kind of placed in very awkward ways that make things a little bit difficult for me. So we are facing some good and some bad. The good, I can see someplace that we might be able to exit to. It's the Dead Caves, which I believe we have not visited yet. And so that is something that I would like to visit. We can actually use this vine beast, well, maybe not. I was hoping we could use this vine beast to lure these vine spirits a little bit further, but it ended up not cooperating. Even so, if I move up here, I should be able to kill that one. But now I have no way of getting over to this vine beast, so we're probably going to have to back away from this area and try someplace else. But kind of rule one in HyperRogue that I always have to remember is that the world is bigger than I ever think it is, and there are always so many more options than I realize. And so even when all of our options are being cut off, I still have a lot of places that I can go, a lot of ways that I can escape. And so as long as I don't let myself get surrounded on all sides in a really narrow way, I I will always have some place that I can go to, some place that I can kind of continue on to. Even if it's not always where I want to go, my options kind of will always remain open. So I think I got a little bit distracted. I'm starting to, as I mentioned, I'm feeling a bit loopy. And I am starting to wonder if I got around to kind of finishing what I was saying about NetHack, about the way that it is organized as this kind of series of phases with really distinct characteristics. And I was really noting that as a really remarkable characteristic of NetHack. And there are other games that have that, but I found it particularly noticeable in NetHack that there were these areas that had these very distinctive characteristics. Now that one is in the Hive, which would make it very easy to find if we had more dead orbs. I actually did a speedrun recently where we went into the Hive, and it was very easy. It might be harder because I'm carrying royal jellies now, but as I mentioned, we don't actually need an Orb of Yendor, we just would find it useful. And so I am going to continue to kind of take it easy. Now, I do want to move alongside this emerald mine for the reasons that I mentioned, that I do still want to find a key that is in the emerald mine. Ah, that was an Orb of Winter, not an Orb of Yendor, so that is not what I was expecting, but is probably useful. Now that was an Orb of Teleport, not an Orb of Flash, so I'm really having some colorblind issues, which that happens sometimes. So where are we going? We don't actually have that much of an agenda right now, but I want to make sure that I don't get completely flanked here, so let's try and be careful. We can use our Orb of Thorns to... we can't actually stab flail guards, so we still have to trick them. So that's good information. We can fight hedgehog warriors directly, we can stab other monsters, but we still have to play by the rules for the other denizens of the emerald mines. So, okay, so where are we at? We have 10 gems in very, very many different kinds, and I am struggling to think what we are missing. I think silver and power stones might be all that we're missing, and so looking for a silver mine, maybe the next thing of value. Or we may want to kind of go along the edge of this land of power and see if we can find some orbs that will get us some value. Like here, no, we can't actually fight that golem. I was hoping that if I approached this illusion cloud that we could hit that golem with one of the illusions, but that would require moving through the Great Wall, so we can't actually do that. And it looks like we're just going to have to abandon that line of attack entirely, which is fine. It's not that important. We have many, many opportunities to go into the Land of Power, and that's actually something that I think about in speedrunning, kind of an idea that I use to structure my speedrunning is this idea that we're going to do everything we do so many times that it's not actually worthwhile to worry too much about any individual opportunity. Like here we've got the Orb of the Mind, and so we can use that to get rid of that guard there, and that one there, and that one, yeah, that one's going to threaten us as well. And I believe that uses up our Orb of the Mind. So now we want to probably pick up some speed as soon as possible. So that's going to be... there's a Speed Witch coming for us. I believe if we wait, it will come right up to us, and then we can get its speed. And that will give us some more options. Having speed and ether, or speed and winter available constantly is really valuable. Flash as well, though Flash is harder to keep around. And we had some ether there as well, so we didn't even use the Flash to open that cabinet, which is very nice, because that means we can use the Flash to open this cabinet, though I would like to wait for a couple more monsters to come closer so that we can hit them all with the Flash at the same time. And that worked out exactly how I wanted it to. And that, I guess that was an Ether Witch. Let's see, Orb of Life is very valuable. Orb of Ether is somewhat valuable. Orb of Storms, not so much. Now, can we use the Ether to get through the fire? Indeed we can. Now that's of limited usefulness because we're leaving our golem behind, but it looks like we can get into the Power Stone cabinet and then grab the Orb of Flash. And so what that lets us do is worry less about that Flash Witch over there. And our golem is pretty much lost at this point. Now we can pick up even a third Orb of Flash, but I think that that's unwise because I think we lose all of our Orbs of Flash at once when we fire them. Okay, so step back. We are in a very dangerous situation, but one where we have a lot of opportunities. We have another Orb of Ether that we could use to get into a cabinet. We have a Winter Witch coming up, which is not very threatening, so we can actually fight that directly. Now, how are we doing for speed? We are actually running very low on speed. And so I want to hopefully pick one up, recharge that. Now, how are we going to get into this cabinet? There's an Orb of Flash that is just the tiniest bit out of reach, but what that will do is it will let us get closer to... Okay. I was not trying to do what I did there. I was actually wanted to save that Flash to deal with the Flash Witch. But maybe what we can do... No, the Orb of Speed is not sufficient, actually, to get us close to the Flash Witch. And so we need to kind of move away this way and just hope that, well, they're blocking each other off now, so that's very nice. Orb of Life, probably of limited usefulness in the Land of Power. Really don't want to mess around with those Orbs of Fire. I find those are more trouble than they are worth. Orb of Ether can help us to get another Power Stone, probably. I don't know if I want to give up this Orb of Flash to open up these cabinets, or if I want to save it for a Flash Witch, but I don't see any Flash Witches really close. And we do actually need to deal with this Speed Witch. And so that actually went very smoothly. Now we have an Orb of Invisibility, Orb of Storms that we can actually use maybe to get a couple of witches at the same time. Orb of Trickery. Now that could be very valuable. That lets us place images. And so, like, if we come up here, now if we have Flash Witches bearing down on us, we can actually, we have a way of slowing them down. And because we have the speed, we can actually fight those Ether Witches, both of them at the same time, take their Ether and use it to get into a cabinet, and then We can even, I think, let's see, we can use, okay. We can use our trickery to deal with that Flash Witch long enough to deal with that Winter Witch. And then, what are we going to do? Alright, we're getting very slow, very tactical, and I am getting rather worn out. An Orb of Safety is not really anywhere that I can see it. Apparently the Flash Witch discharged and opened up a couple more cabinets for us. Orb of Ether, not really what I want. Maybe we can open up a cabinet with it, but really what we need right now is speed and flash. So I'm going to move towards this Orb of Flash, and I'm going to use the Orb of Trickery to try and place some more images. And I have to remember that I have the speed that I need. And I believe I have some ether and some invisibility. It's very difficult to keep track of what powers I have, what powers I need, and really chart an effective course. So I'm going to check how long we've been going. And we've been going for quite a long time. So I am actually going to, even though there's no Orb of Safety, I'm going to put things on pause. I'm going to take a break, come back at this with a fresh perspective, see if we can we need one more Power Stone, and then we need to find our way to an exit. I think it may actually be wiser to find our way to an exit first, and then worry about how we're going to get that last Power Stone. So we have a lot of orb powers. We have Orb of Flash, Orb of Winter, Orb of Speed, Orb of Ether, and Orb of Trickery. So we have a lot of powers. We have a lot of powers around us scattered on the ground that we can pick up. And so in the next episode, we're going to try and find a way through these orbs that lets us survive, get our last Power Stone, and get out of here. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.